Coming up, a look into how football is going, both fantasy and locally.
Plus, what happened during the Cubs' last homestand?
I'm Elizabeth Winchester.
And I'm Shreeya Pattekar.
All this and so much more.
Rambler Sports Locker begins now. Another week done, another episode to film.
That's right, Shreeya. Although the week began rainy and cloudy, summer seems to be unable to let go as the weekend is forecasted with sun and high temperatures.
Very true, Elizabeth. I don't know about you, but it sounds like this weekend will be the perfect weather to catch the Loyola men's soccer game on Saturday.
You got that right, but men's soccer is not the only sport that's in season. Glenna Wethington is here to give us the rundown on how the Ramblers are doing. Take it away, Glenna.
Welcome back. I'm Glenna Wethington, and this is Rambler Rundown. September is wrapping up, but Rambler fall sports are far from over. Starting in Gentile Arena, women's volleyball pushes their losing streak to 5 games after 2 losses to Dayton over the weekend. On the pitch, men's soccer tied 1-1 with Duquesne on Saturday and won 2-0 against Northern Illinois University on Tuesday. Tuesday's game only lasted about 40 minutes due to weather. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the women's soccer team shut out George Washington University 4-0 at home. This game marks the team's first Atlantic 10 win this season. In Des Moines, Iowa, men's golf placed 5th at the Zach Johnson Invitational with 3 Ramblers ranking within the top 25 players of the tournament. That's fall for now. For Rambler Rundown, I'm Glenna Wethington.
Thanks, Glenna. The Ramblers seem off to a rocky start. Are they just finding their groove, or is this a foreshadow for the future? We'll have to wait and see. The Ramblers aren't the only ones that you should be keeping an eye on. Amelia Villhauer is here with the latest on how the Cubs are faring in the race to the playoffs.
Another season knocked out of the Wrigley Field Park. The Cubs are closing in on the end of their regular season and just wrapped up their final homestand of 2023 on September 24th. They came to a strong finish by sweeping the Colorado Rockies, winning 3 games in a row, which improved their record to 82-74. It leaves fans wondering, do the Cubs have a chance of making the playoffs this year? Well, the Cubs are currently caught in a tight race to grab one of the wild card spots. For anyone out there needing a refresher on their baseball knowledge, the National League and American League playoffs consist of 3 division winners and 3 wild card teams. These wild card teams are the 3 best teams in the league who didn't win their division, and they will play in a best-of-3 series in the playoffs. So far, the Atlanta Braves, Los Angeles Dodgers, and Milwaukee Brewers have snagged division titles, and the Philadelphia Phillies have the first wildcard spot. As for the remaining 2 wildcard spots, fans are on the edge of their seats seeing who will claim victory among the 4 other teams besides the Cubs. This includes the Arizona Diamondbacks and Miami Marlins, Cincinnati Reds, and San Diego Padres. Currently, the Cubs have a 58% chance of making the playoffs and have 3 games left to play this week. Everyone is holding their breath to see what the future has in store for the Chicago Cubs. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Amelia Villhauer.
Thanks, Amelia. I bet Cubs fans are on the edge of their seats right now with the playoffs coming up. Now, let's take a look on the other side of the world, where Australia will be hosting their very own hockey game this week.
Ice hockey in Australia? Yep, that's right. The Land Down Under hosted its first NHL preseason game this week. The Los Angeles Kings played the Arizona Coyotes, with the Coyotes winning 5-3. Although Australia has never had a huge fan base for hockey, the Rod Laver Arena was packed to the brim with a sellout crowd of 13,097 fans in attendance. For some of these fans, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. According to Seamus Jones, an Australian native and avid NHL fan, quote, "It's sort of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. I've never even been overseas before, so the fact that the NHL has come down here, I pretty much had no choice but to buy a ticket." End quote. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Josh Lee.
Thanks, Josh. I'm interested to see how the NHL will continue to expand globally.
Me too. More countries hosting NHL games means more happy fans.
Happy fans? There certainly is a shortage of those in Chicago right now, when it comes to football at least.
Yes, unfortunately, I wonder how the Chicago Bears and Denver Broncos are preparing for their game on October 1st. Are they taking a Rambler route and waking up at 5 a.m.? or are they getting all the rest they can?
I don't know, Shreeya, but you've got a good point. Both teams are currently winless. Bella Giudice is here with the story. Bella, what can you tell us about these teams?
Hi, Lizzie. I wish I had better news to report. The Bears had an embarrassing loss in front of Taylor Swift last week to the Kansas City Chiefs, losing 41-10. The defeat was so bad, the Bears needed to get in the getaway car, much like Taylor Swift from Arrowhead Stadium. This week, they will play another disappointing ball club, the Denver Broncos at home. The Denver Broncos are coming off one of the worst losses in NFL history. I think for the Bears to get back on track this season, the offense needs to incorporate more designed runs for quarterback Justin Fields instead of forcing him to stay in the pocket, which he's not comfortable doing. Overall, I believe the Bears will be defeated at home. I have the Broncos winning 24-13. Back to you, anchors.
Thanks, Bella. I'm sure a lot of people watching are curious to see who will come out on top.
You got that right. While I'm not a huge football fan, it's always interesting to see how the local teams are doing.
I agree. I wonder how many people will be watching the game while playing fantasy football.
I don't know, but I'm sure it's a lot. I heard that it was an interesting week with fantasy football.
You heard correctly. Chloe Morrissey is here to give us a rundown of what happened.
An interesting week to say the least. Thanks, Elizabeth and Shreeya. And welcome to a new segment called Points and Pigskin. Get ready for all your fantasy football highlights and disappointments from each week right here. Starting off with Week 3's top scorer from Sunday's shutout game, rookie running back Devon Achane from the Miami Dolphins with a whopping 49.3 fantasy points for half PPR after raking in 4 touchdowns and 233 total yards. Teammate Raheem Mostert was not far behind with 41.7 points. Together, the pair made history with the highest PPR fantasy points for a running back duo on the same team. Moving on to someone who has been slowly creeping up the leaderboard, Houston Texans rookie wide receiver Tank Dell. Dell has been climbing up the ranks after dropping 23 fantasy points in Sunday's upset game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He led the Texans in receptions, receiving yards, and targets, looking promising for the weeks ahead. Next is a personal shout out to Davante Adams, who single-handedly secured my Week 3 win. Ending up with 35.7 points, Adams secured 13 out of his game-high 19 targets for 2 touchdowns and 172 yards. Adams' effort wasn't quite enough to lead the Las Vegas Raiders to victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he definitely did his share for all the fantasy managers out there. As LA Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams has been confirmed to be out for the rest of the season with an ACL tear, there are a couple players worth picking up. Receivers Quentin Johnson and Josh Palmer will see an increase in targets as they fight for the wide receiver 2 spot, so it may be worth adding either of these two to your roster. Keenan Allen still remains the Chargers wide receiver 1 and certainly pulled his weight with 36.5 fantasy points on the board. We end this week with a huge disappointment that I'm sure cost plenty of fantasy managers Week 3. This is none other than Tennessee Titans star running back Derrick Henry. Henry did not see the ball come his way as much as usual and definitely didn't make use of it if he did, posting a measly 2 points. This could be chalked up to a tough matchup against the Cleveland Browns, but Henry will look to bounce back as we approach Week 4. That's it for this week's edition of Points and Pigskin. Be sure to tune in next week for all your fantasy football news. For Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Chloe Morrissey.
Thanks, Chloe. After an exciting week of fantasy is behind us, but that doesn't mean we're done talking about football. After a disappointing game against the Kansas City Chiefs, William Bazzone, Morgan Weaver, and Chloe Morrissey are here to discuss the Chicago Bears and quarterback Justin Fields. Here's William with the Ramble.
Thanks, Lizzie and Shreeya, and we hope you're ready for a new edition of The Ramble. I'm your host, William Bazzone, and I'll be joined by reporters Morgan Weaver and Chloe Morrissey. As Bella mentioned earlier, the Chicago Bears suffered a 41-10 drubbing at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs last Sunday. The loss puts them at 0-3, marking their 13th straight loss dating back to October 24th of last season. The Monsters of the Midway are looking scary, but for all the wrong reasons. They were shut out until the fourth quarter, and quarterback Justin Fields didn't play well either. He completed just 11 of his 22 passes for 99 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. This comes after he publicly criticized head coach Matt Eberflus and offensive coordinator Luke Getsy for his poor outing against Tampa Bay the week prior. During an interview with NBC Sports Chicago, former Bears offensive coordinator Mike Martz said the team should not have number 1 as the team's QB1 going forward. Quote, "If they don't make a change, I think it's going to get worse if that's possible for this team to get worse." End quote. Ouch. Call it immaturity, call it bad play calling, call it what you want, but gang, is it time to start considering someone else to lead this offense? And Morgan, rumor around here says you're a pretty big Justin Fields fan. Tell me about what you think about him.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to give him more of an opportunity. He's a really good quarterback. We see in the second season he broke the record for most rushing yards by any QB. He did that in his second season.
Sure.
It took other QBs multiple seasons to do that, only 2 other ones in the league for him to do that as
Sure.
well. So, I mean, we've just got to give him more time to produce the outcome we're looking for. You know what I mean? Like, we have the leading sacks in the NFL, only time the past 2 seasons with the Denver Broncos. So, I mean, when we really think about it, we've got to give him more time in the pocket. We've got to give him more time to see the field and go through those progressions, and we'll get the results we want.
See, and that's an issue that people have with Justin Fields is he stands too long in the pocket. You know, he stares down his reads. He doesn't really go through any progression. He just stands there and then he gets sacked. So, Chloe, you're taking the opposite stance here. I think that's a problem. Tell me what else you don't like about Justin Fields.
You know, as a Bears fan, we've had our hopes up for so long,
Sure.
especially going into this season. Everyone was hyping up Justin Fields so much in the offseason.
MVP candidate.
And
That's what they were saying. This is ridiculous.
I know. And you said that he just needs an opportunity. But he's been in Chicago for the past 3 years. We've started out this season already 0-3 on a 12-week losing streak. How much more of an opportunity does he need to do something? He hasn't even given us a glimpse of everything that everyone has hyped him up to be.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Morgan. Any thoughts?
I mean, yeah, we have to give him more time simply because we don't have the offensive players or the defensive players to kind of help him out.
Well, wait a second.
Our
What
defense
about DJ Moore? What about, Tremaine Edmonds? All these guys they brought in, is that not enough?
DJ Moore is a great wide receiver.
Exactly.
But what is he going to do with a quarterback that doesn't throw the ball? Because Justin Fields basically likes to play as a running back.
Right, exactly. And that brings me to my next question here. What happens, hypothetically speaking, if Justin Fields were to switch positions? That's happened in the past before, right? We look at guys in the past like Josh Cribbs, Browns legend. Julian Edelman switched from quarterback as well to wide receiver. Even recently, like Kadarius Toney, Kenneth Gainwell, they both switched from quarterback to running back and receiver. And maybe he could be used more like a Taysom Hill, right? Taking snaps at 7 different positions. Do you think Justin Fields could be more successful if he switches positions to maybe a running back or a tight end or a receiver? Because he's 6'3", 225, physically gifted. I think he could play some of those positions. What do you think?
No, I do think that. I think he would be better as a running back, but I also think as a Bears fan base, we do need to give him a little bit more time as a quarterback as well.
So it seems like your kind of overarching theme here is more or less about play calling rather than Justin Fields himself. So you're thinking it's more on like the head coach, offensive coordinator kind of deal?
It's definitely on both of those guys as well as our O-line and our defense as well. I mean, if you want to look at the last game we played, that's all defense right there. It's hard as a quarterback to come back and keep seeing the other team go out there and score.
Sure.
That's a hard mentality to be in as a quarterback, to go out there and say, okay, we need to go score, and we can't. And then your defense allows them to score all these points. So, I mean, it's definitely something that we need to think about more, but he would be great as running back as well.
Sure. Chloe, any final thoughts?
I definitely think Justin Fields needs to at least personally leave Chicago. I don't think he's really a fit here, especially as quarterback. I think maybe he would have some more luck if he were to play running back, because that is what he's already seeming to do.
Right.
Hands down, I mean, Justin Fields is an athlete, but I think his judgment as a quarterback is just not there, and
Sure.
it hasn't been there. So I think, yeah, maybe he could thrive as a running back, but I just don't think he's cut out for that QB spot.
And it's tough because a lot of Ohio State quarterbacks haven't had that much success in the league, and, well, maybe Fields will be another example of that. But anyways, thank you, Morgan and Chloe, for your points, and it will be very interesting to see what they end up doing down the line. Lizzie and Shreeya, back to you.
Thanks, everyone. I love hearing everyone's side on this discussion, but only time will tell how the Bears will proceed. Speaking of time, let's take a look backwards. In 2005, the Chicago White Sox secured their first division title since 2000. They became the 10th team in baseball history to be in first place every day of the season. The White Sox went on to win the World Series. That's all for this day in sports history.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That was a big day for the Southsiders.
And that wraps up this episode of Rambler Sports Locker.
To stay up to date on all things Rambler Sports, be sure to follow us on X and Instagram at Loyola RSL and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Loyola School of Comm students, don't miss out on the career fair this Tuesday from 3 to 6 p.m.
From all of us here at Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Elizabeth Winchester.
And I'm Shreeya Pattekar.
We'll see you next week, and don't forget to turn off the lights.